All right, hello and welcome. Today we're going to dive into something pretty fascinating, the neuroscience behind why we make the choices we do, and more importantly, how we can actually change them. This whole explainer is based on some really brilliant work by neuroscientist Emily Falk, and I've got to say, it might just change the way you think about your own decisions. So, let's start by exploring a feeling I think we all know way too well, that feeling of being stuck, right? It's that moment when you know exactly what you should do, what you even want to do, but for some reason, you just don't.
This quote, "You're not really paying attention to me." Wow. This is actually what the author Emily Falk heard from her own grandmother, Bev, one evening. And Falk knew she was right. She knew she should be spending more quality time with her, but, work and life just felt so overwhelming. It's just a perfect kind of heartbreaking example of that gap we all have between our good intentions and what we actually do.
So, this is really the big question, isn't it? Why is it so hard to do the things we know are right? It really does feel like we're stuck in a cave sometimes. Constricted, the walls are pressing in, and you just feel totally unable to move forward on the choices that actually matter the most to you, whether that's visiting someone you love, or finally starting that new habit, or making a huge life change.
Okay, but what if you had a flashlight in that cave? Well, that's exactly what understanding our brain's value system can be. It's like a tool that can light up the hidden mechanics of our choices and show us these new paths forward that we just couldn't see in the dark.
And what's so cool about this is how it totally reframes the whole idea of choice. We tend to think of it as this big battle between self-control and impulse, good versus bad. But it's not that simple. Instead, your brain is just constantly running this really complex calculation, weighing all these different inputs to figure out the value of each option right in that specific moment.
Okay, so to see this whole value system in action, let's look at a true master of, manipulation, Jenny Radcliffe. She's a security expert. They call her a people hacker, and she was hired to physically break into a high-security German bank. And get this, her only tool was the security guard's own brain.
I mean, this is just a brilliant illustration of how this works. Jenny didn't pick a single lock. She hacked the guard's value calculation. So think about it. By swearing loudly and scattering her papers everywhere, she made the whole scene incredibly awkward and uncomfortable. Suddenly, the value of following the rules went way down, and the value of making this embarrassing commotion stop went way, way up. She changed what the guard was paying attention to, and just like that, she changed his choice.
Okay, so that raises a pretty big question, right? What are the biggest inputs that shape this whole value calculation in our brains? Well, the first one is deeply, deeply personal. It's all about your sense of self, the power of me.
So it turns out our brains are constantly asking two main questions. First, how does this choice line up with who I am? That's self-relevance. And second, what are other people going to think about this? That's social relevance. Any choice that feels true to our identity, our me, or gets a thumbs up from our social world, our we, gets assigned a way higher value. So let's dive into that first one, the power of me.
A great way to understand this is through the story of comedian Jenny Slate. So early in her career, she just felt like a total failure. She was trying to be this gutsy comedian she thought everyone wanted her to be, but it just wasn't her. And then one day, she's in a crowded hotel room feeling really small, and this tiny, authentic little voice just emerged.
And that voice was Marcel Duchel. I mean, this little character, a seashell with a lentil for a hat, who hang glides on a Dorito, was this pure, completely unapologetic expression of who Jenny Slate really was. And creating him, performing as him, felt so deeply valuable to her. Why? Because it aligned perfectly with her authentic self. And that's the key. When our actions are in sync with our identity, our brain's value system just lights up.
Okay, so that's the me. Now let's build on that and look at the second major input, which is the incredible power of we, the people all around us. It turns out our brains are just exquisitely tuned into our social world, and that connection has a massive influence on the choices we make.
So the author tells this really funny, relatable story about the actor Benedict Cumberbatch. At first, she was totally indifferent to him, didn't get the hype. But then a friend just gushed about him. Then her partner mentioned how appealing he was. And all of a sudden, she finds herself on a total Cumber binge, and her opinion has completely flipped. So what happened? It's simple. The opinions of others literally changed her brain's value calculation of him.
And look, this isn't just about actors or celebrity crushes. This goes way, way deeper. Just look at the classic Asch conformity experiment. A full 1/3 of the volunteers in that study knowingly gave an answer that their own eyes told them was wrong just to fit in with the group. That's incredible. It just goes to show that our need to belong, to be in sync with our social world, is a massive, massive input to our value system.
Okay, so here's where it all comes together. This is the crucial point. If we know what the key inputs are, right? Self-relevance and social relevance, we can actually start to influence the calculation. We get to choose where we shine that flashlight and consciously change the value of our options.
And really, it all boils down to this one powerful idea. Change what you think about. That's the key. Because the way a choice is framed, what you pay attention to, can completely change its value. By deliberately shifting your own focus, or someone else's, you can highlight totally different parts of a choice, alter how valuable it seems, and end up with a completely different outcome.
This story about Ernie Grunfeld is the perfect example. So Ernie would go on to be a big NBA player, but his parents valued one thing above all else: education. So to them, basketball was just a low-value distraction. But his coach did something brilliant. He masterfully reframed it. He didn't argue against education, no. He connected basketball to education. He framed it as a direct path to a college scholarship. He basically shined the flashlight on a brand new connection they hadn't seen before, completely changing their value calculation, and, well, ultimately changing Ernie's entire life.
And you know what? This power isn't just for our own personal lives. When we decide to shine our flashlight, when we make a choice that really aligns with our deepest values, that light is visible. Other people see it, and it creates this incredible ripple effect.
The Nobel laureate Maria Ressa has this incredibly powerful phrase, Ako ang simula, in Filipino, which means I am the beginning. And it just captures this profound truth so perfectly. You see, the small, everyday choices that we make, to speak up, to be kind, to act with integrity, they don't just happen in a vacuum. They create these feedback loops that influence everyone around us. They start to shift expectations, and slowly, over time, they can change the culture itself. So the next time you find yourself in that cave, facing a hard choice, just remember, you're holding the flashlight. You have the power to change what you think about, to literally recalculate value, and to light up a whole new way forward. And not just for you, but for everyone your light happens to touch. So the real question is, what new path will your light reveal?